This is the Intentional Disruption Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Demo. Today I'm joined by Jeffrey Price of Plan Logistics. He's one of my military brethren, even though we're in a different branch of the military. He's got a very unique claim to fame as the only person in his specialty to have completely swept at 100% every test in his logistics training. And before we recorded, I was joking about the fact that I was also close to being number one in my class, but I absolutely bombed and failed one part of it. So I ended up two or three. So he definitely wins the award for that. Uh, Jeff, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on your show, Mike, and I'm really excited and I appreciate the opportunity.
No, I'm glad to meet up with you. We met on LinkedIn in one of the veterans networking pages, and it's really exciting that we've been able to have the conversations that we have. And I wanted really just to highlight the awesome things that you have going on as somebody that was in the military, transitioned successfully to corporate life, and then also successfully transitioned over to running your own logistics company, which is a fantastic feat for anybody. And you've done it in a rather rapid period of time. So just to get everything started, why don't we talk a little bit about where you're from and how this journey started?
Yeah, well, thank you. So, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. That's where I'm based out of for our operations as well. Long story short, my background is in organizational communications as far as my schooling. And then in 2012, I realized a degree in organizational communications fresh out of college is 30,000 a year. That is not going to pay my student loans, the bills, and just life expenses in general. So at that point, Mike, I made a decision to where I need to better myself and get real life experience. So at that point, my family, I come from a military family. My mother immigrated from Panama, and the way that she immigrated here was my grandfather was stationed there during the Panama Canal in the 60s and things of that nature. So that's literally how my whole family got to the United States. So being in the military is just part of our family history. We joke and say the firstborn of every generation has to do some time in the military, whether it's Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, or the Coast Guard. So that was my journey on why I joined the military, is I wanted to give back and get real life experience. And to be transparent, hey, I racked up about 60, 70,000 in student loans, and I needed some student some student loan repayment options. So joined the military in 2012. In the Army, it's unique, separate from some of the other branches, that based off your ASVAB score, you get to choose your MOS, which is your military occupational specialty.
Yep.
And out of the three options I had, the one that stood out the most was transportation management coordinator. So I went home, did my research, and out of those options that I was presented, the transportation management coordinator, that one had the most career growth. It had the most potential to where when my military time was up, I could have a career in the civilian side that was still impactful.
And I know we've talked about this on one of our earlier conversations. I was in a similar boat with, the ASVAB get to pick your place. And I remember telling you, I thought I was going to be an air traffic controller being in
Yeah,
the greater New York City area. That's an easy $100,000 a year job back in 2000.
right.
So, yeah. Well, I'm glad your recruiter hooked you up and got you exactly where you were trying to go.
Yeah.
My path diverged a little bit, so that's all good. So let's talk a little bit about that Army experience, because you got to go to some places that I didn't get to go to. So how did that all go?
Yep. So joined in 2012, straight to boot camp, AIT. That stands for Army Individual Training. So that's
Mhm.
your school where you get your specialized knowledge for your MOS. I was blessed that when I got there to Fort Lee, Virginia, that I was able to score 100% on every test in the Army Transportation School. So to me, that was just a moment to where this is my specialized knowledge. This is my wheelhouse. My background was not in logistics, but once I got presented with the opportunity, I would almost say it came supernaturally to me. It's one thing to work hard, but I'm working in grace to where this is just my God-given ability. So, I'm a firm believer in maximizing your strengths. So that's where I chose that, you know what, I'm going to really maximize my career out of transportation logistics. So fast forward, I get out of AIT and I'll get straight deployed to Afghanistan. You know,
Hmm.
I was in the reserve component as well. So normally there's a little gap in there. You go back to your duty station, you relax a little bit. Nope, I went straight to Afghanistan. And it was, again, a real interesting experience there because I went by myself, you know, as a junior enlisted soldier, being mobilized by yourself, the experience is completely different. I'm meeting a unit already in country. So I'm traveling, going through pre-mobilization all by myself. So it's just the path to where now I'm having to really learn logistics because I need to move myself as cargo across the United States to get to where I need to be. And I didn't have any supervision. I literally got to boots on ground in Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan, and I had to hop on a Roshan phone to find my commander in my unit. So all those experiences, when I look back, were just small little breadcrumbs to that I have the capability to run my own company, to be in a position where when times get tough, when trials and tribulations come, that my perspective is always in hope and that things will work out for the best.
Yeah, the logistics side of the military, in my specialty, I dealt with the front edge of it, basically making sure the convoys were able to get through, make sure they had the support, and the logistics behind some of that stuff. It's just amazing. Like I know we had an air tasking order that was a small booklet every single day for what's going on in the entire theater. Where is it? How do we coordinate? And yeah, it's wild how that all works out. And I remember when we talked for the first time, you'd mentioned a couple times where that specialized knowledge you had, even at a junior rank, meant that you had to have some challenging, I guess we'll say, conversations with leadership about their plan and their intentions. And how did that go?
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike, and I'm glad you brought that up. So being junior enlisted and being charged of entry control points or ECPs, you know, high ranking officials, generals, colonels, lieutenant colonels, you know, they have chief warrant officers, for example. When they want to move, they want to move. So our job is their safety and mission critical, you know, activities. So if they want to leave the gate to just kind of, you know, follow that unction or follow their gut, so to speak, it was our responsibility to say, hey, sir, I know that you have 20 years of experience, but trust our specialized knowledge that you do not want to go out that gate right now.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of challenging conversations, such as those, but that built up that courage inside of me and that boldness. And also, you know, the Army is really big on leadership, and that acronym is loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honesty, integrity, and perseverance. So for me to really cultivate leadership in myself, it's important to speak up and do the right thing at all times, no matter what somebody else's perception of you is.
It's, it's an amazing thing. I know Jocko Willink talks a lot about, being able to lead up the chain of command. And
Mhm.
it's funny how neither one of us were exposed to that during our deployments. But it's still a core thing that I think a lot of people have an understanding. Hey, if something's not right, speak up. But we have a
Right.
problem with the power structure, and
Yes.
that person controls my future. I don't want to piss them off.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it reminds me of a time when I was in Iraq. So the Marine Corps is very particular about controlling our assets and a positive control. The Army does things a little bit different with
Yes.
specifically their helicopters, where they think it's a big sky, bullets are small, let them go wherever they're going to go. And this is 2004 in Ramadi, Iraq. During the day, that is a black zone. You are not allowed to land your aircraft. I was on a small little base called Blue Diamond. It was
Mm.
about 1,000 yards by 200 yards, and it was one of Saddam's son's palaces. And there's a little
Wow.
landing spot, and my job was to control all the airspace. I owned the deck to the moon, basically, and it's my responsibility. So one time, and this is where the command and control center for all of Anbar provinces, we have a Black Hawk land at our LZ early morning coffee time,
Right.
and the commanding general, General Datansky, he was like 6'12". Dude was huge, and all of a sudden I feel this looming presence. I look over and there's a 2-star. Hey, Corporal Demo, who the is that on my landing zone? Why the are they there? And I just there's a little bit of a pucker factor there. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to tell this guy something he's not gonna want to know.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, sir, that I have no control of that Black Hawk. They did not check in with us. I don't know what happened. And I saw this man put on his Kevlar, put on his flak jacket, leave the command center with all the other operations going on, walk out to the LZ, proceed to chew out this army captain, and
Mm.
just change his entire day. And it was like, wow, it's it's amazing. But like at the same time, as a junior guy, you're still accountable
Right.
for
Yeah.
what happened, and that's why he came over.
Mhm.
But being able to tell colonels, hey, sir, I need you to this asset, you need to put it over there.
Right.
Similar to what you're talking about. It's that crucible of taking ownership at a very
Mhm.
early age,
Yes.
which I think actually transitions well because you were telling me post military, you actually did some really cool things working with Honda Motor Company. Um, so, what was that transition when you finally did move out of the army over to the corporate side? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So once I got back stateside, it was 2014. And, I was working at Spectrum doing dispatching. If you need your cable hooked up, I would come out in the truck doing things of that nature. And that just wasn't for me, climbing poles, hooking up cable.
Yep.
That's just not me. So that led to me working at DHL. And that's where I got my experience being a freight broker and really got my foothold in the industry of third party logistics. So I was there for 6 months. Great company, learned a lot. But the thing was, I was only making a base salary and a tiny portion of commission. So that kind of planted the seed for where we are now with Plan is that I always wanted to go back and be on the commission side of it and kind of get out of that corporate structure. So I was there for about half a year. The opportunity came up where a recruiter for Honda reached out, said, hey, you look good, the military experience. Why don't you come in and interview? Go interview, nailed it, great experience. By the time I was leaving the interview on my way home, they already called and offered me the job. So I was like, wow, if a company of that size and magnitude didn't even take a day to offer me the position, that's a sign for me to just go ahead and go. So leave DHL, go to Honda. And when I got to Honda, we're actually in the middle of a crisis to where just with the ordering system, volume was crazy in 2016. And that really was another critical point in my career to where I learned crisis management. At that point, I'm fresh and now I'm getting hit with managing 3 warehouses. Stuff needed to be shipped overseas immediately. And when you're doing global logistics for a company of that size, the one thing you can never do is shut down a production line. At that point, transportation costs will make it up on the back end, but we do not let production line stop. At that point, you're losing millions of dollars a minute when cars are not being made and things of that nature. So, now we're working crazy hours trying to get this produced. I joke now looking back that my father-in-law, I was dating my wife at the time. We weren't married, but he said to my wife, are you sure he's really at work? He's working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Are you sure he's working? And we joke about it now, but I was like, man, I guess it does look bad. But, when you're in a Japanese culture in that environment, the rules of engagement, the rules of work shift. They're very mission critical that, hey, we got to get this job done, especially if you understand what Honda means to the Japanese culture after World War II. Those automotive companies like Honda, Toyota, they really helped stabilize their economy. So there's a whole different level of respect and discipline working under their leadership, which I don't feel if I didn't go to that deployment in Afghanistan, already be a soldier in the Army Reserves, I don't think I would have made it. So there's always a special place in my heart for the military that it provided me the structure, the discipline, the determination, the perseverance to handle working at a large Japanese auto manufacturer.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the Kaizen mindset, and Both
Yes.
of us understand the lean processes and the agile mindset. So it's it's interesting how like these jobs overseas really do change the character of the people that come back in the business world too.
Yes.
Because like
Yes.
with me, with the operations for when we were taking down Fallujah, I was same thing, 16-hour days, mission accomplishment. It's not optional not to get the job done. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
matter of what do we what do we need to shift and move, and how do we create the flow state that we need, even if we don't have the parts required to do that.
Yes.
And it sounds like that time in Afghanistan gave you that mindset of, mission accomplishment, obviously, but also being able to think outside of the box, which is one of the things, in my corporate journey that I've seen is when they see military, they expect, very disciplined people that follow the letter of the rule.
Yeah.
They don't realize how often we actually question authority and say, is there a better way, more efficient way to do this that's going to also achieve the mission?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like that's something that you definitely took to heart because you were mentioning the amount of assets that you were moving at one time. What was it, like a couple $1 billion worth of stuff that you were just managing for Honda Motor Company?
Correct. So everything that was, so we were a supplier for international automotive locations. So we're supplying steering wheels, rims, things of that nature, engines to facilities in India, Japan, China, Brazil, Mexico. So being a global provider, we're always going because now we're working in different time zones, things of that nature. So, and then as far as transportation goes, there's always some kind of delay, whether it's on a ship, whether it's on a plane, whether it's on a truck. So like you said, there's always areas of continuous improvement to where you have to be thinking, what next? What next? What could possibly go wrong? And countermeasures for that continuous improvement Kaizen mindset.
That's a beautiful thing. So, for the video side of the house, you can see the shirt that you're wearing here, Plan Performance. So you're successful in a corporate job. You're absolutely killing it, based on the promotions and everything you'd mentioned to me in our previous conversation. So why the shift?
Yeah, that's a great question. So July 2020, COVID is running rampant.
Yep.
Everybody around the world, especially in the United States, are getting furloughed. So at that point, everybody in North America got furloughed except for the essential people who were working in global logistics because, hey, China, Japan, some of our other countries, they've already mitigated COVID at this point. So they're still running production. So at that point, everybody gets furloughed. I'm thinking like, okay, I got a furlough letter coming. Nope, I'm still working. So now I'm kind of back to where 2016 to where, I was working continuously 24 hours a day, pretty much. Now I'm back in that same position, but now instead of doing just transportation, I'm doing other areas of supply chain, whether it's the purchasing side, the new model side, production planning, things of that nature. So now, it's really opened up my mind to where if I'm able to do all this working from home, because now I'm not going into the office because of COVID. So if I can really have a global impact working from home, it's time to go back to starting that business for that seed that was planted back in 2015. So I started the company in 2020, July of 2020. I'm reading the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is a great book, great book. I encourage everybody to read that book. And that book really shaped my mindset and my approach to business, thinking positively and just realizing the impact of how our thoughts can really drive our actions and drive our belief system as well. So at that point, I started the LLC, Plan Logistics Solutions, and then I just went for it. I realized from working in the military, working at Honda, that the key thing that you need is a good foundational software. So we purchased our own software. And the interesting thing about it is, you work in sales. I'm continuously going out to Clubhouse looking for investors because the software I knew was a key component. So we can do electronic data interface and everything that I knew that we would need to be successful long term. Well, that software was $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have the capital at the time to do that. So I'm reaching out to looking for angel investors, things of that nature. And everywhere I go, I'm getting turned down, not because my business plan wasn't good or they didn't believe in me as a person to really do it. It was because of my pay structure and because of how I felt that truck drivers should be getting paid.
Hmm.
And far as the relationship building, because as we talked about, Mike, I'm not selling a product like a cell phone or anything. I'm selling a service.
Yep.
So really to be successful in my industry as third party logistics is all about customer relationship management, and being a brokerage, a middleman between two parties. I have to ensure that we're providing excellent customer service to the shipper, the one who needs the freight moved, and the trucking company who is actually hauling the freight. So with that in mind, that's what really started the foundation for me to pursue building the company. And then January of 2021, I was going to get another promotion. But at that point, I would have been in charge of domestic transportation. And that kind of is a conflict of interest, because now a supplier, I could say, hey, instead of using this trucking company, just use my business. So out of me being a man of faith, it didn't sit right with me. So I told my job, I said, hey, you know what? I started building this company in 2020. We haven't moved any freight yet, or we don't have any clients because I'm still building the foundation. And, they had their internal conversations, and I was faced with a difficult decision if I was to either resign or shut down the company, and there's no hard feelings. It's just business. I understand they have to protect their brand and their identity. And also, they gave me the opportunity to where, hey, we still want you, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. So at that point, that's what kind of was another sign for me that, hey, it's time to go. I didn't know what it would look like for me to leave corporate America because I really loved my job. I really loved what I was doing, but I also knew that my worth. If I could give $1 billion service to Honda through my brokerage, now I can give this kind of service to countries all across the United States. So that really was that turning point for me, Mike, to kind of push me off the porch into entrepreneurship. And now that I burned that bridge behind me, so to speak, it put a fire inside of me because there's no going back for me. Now I closed the door in corporate America. So now, we ended up doing a home equity line of credit to fund the company. So my wife is my business partner. She's the CFO. And that's why my organization means so much to me. It's more than just me starting a business. It's a love story to how my wife believed in the dream and the vision that I have. And she supported me and backed me up in taking out a home loan against our home to have the capital to start the business.
Yeah, it's a brave step. I know when I started the Delta Enhancement Group, being a registered financial advisor, there's a level of oversight that's just
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Like
Right.
everything has to be disclosed publicly, and like it's a fine line to walk. And that conflict of interest, you know, as a registered rep, literally shut off a massive target
Yeah.
for my clients, people that
Right.
I can help, CPAs, financial advisors, similar to what you're talking about. Like there's that conflict of interest. So like these people that I know that I can help, I can't right now
Right.
for that
Mm-hmm.
for that
Yep.
very same reason.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of my pro bono stuff comes from is
Mm-hmm.
like, look, man, I literally cannot charge you for this, but I want to see you be successful. So let's talk about X, Y, and Z. And like I was mentioned, like that's one of the calls I have later today is for one of my buddies. Like I can't profit off of it, but I want to see him be successful because, good people help good people.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, you dealt with supply side issues. You talked about 2020, 2021. Newsflash for anybody that doesn't own a television or a smart device, which, if that's the case, you probably aren't listening to this. 2022 is a bit of a hot mess. I don't know if anybody told you there, Jeff, but
Yeah.
like with the way that everything's been stacked up with, you know, the different docks out in LA and like just general shipping kerfuffles because I try not to cuss on this thing.
Yeah.
Like, what are you seeing? And, with the way that, I have a bit of a logistics background, so I know the way that fuel has gone up immensely in the last year. Like, what are you seeing? And for the small business owners, like what should they be looking out for when they're trying to fulfill orders? Just to give you a frame of reference, some of my medical clients have mentioned that they're partnering up to be able to get bulk supplies so that they're not running out of the needles for the injections they do for different medicines. So like, what are you seeing, and how does somebody in your position potentially help those situations?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. And I'll kind of answer that twofold for
Okay.
shippers. I would say recommend right now looking at using LTL, which is less than truckload. So if you have an opportunity to forecast and have really firm dates on when products are needed, try to consolidate that shipment with other orders on a truck. So that's one of the areas that we have provide expertise in, is less than truckload. So
Mhm.
that way you're not absorbing all of those transportation costs on a full 53-foot dry van trailer, which is what people typically see on the freeway or over the road, that you're sharing that transportation costs with another company, and we help manage that relationship. So kind of going back to the relationship management, the success that we found is my days to pay is under 7 days to trucking companies. And that's not without a discount or a penalty. That's just us leveraging our relationships that we already have with financial institutions, the credit that we took out for our own to help finance the company that I mentioned we took out. We use that and we leverage that to where the in our industry, a trucking company, they make a delivery, they're not typically paid until 21 to 30 days after they've delivered that shipment. Now, as you mentioned, costs everywhere are going up, grocery costs, living costs, just the cost of life in general right now. So since we're paying trucking companies faster, we're recruiting better talent, because if they have their funds faster, they're able to operate more efficiently if they're not having to float money for longer periods of time. So we found a tremendous success finding qualified carriers because we simply pay them faster and treat them with a level of dignity and respect that, unfortunately, in this industry, because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, greed, poor service, things of that nature run rampant. And there's two types of leaders that I found in my life, Mike, and I'm sure you'll elaborate on it, is process leaders and people leaders. I identify myself as a people leader, that I lead from the front. One of the things that I learned from the military, and even my employees, they know, hey, I get my hands dirty too. I don't just do podcasts and talk to people and show up, shake hands and kiss babies. I'm
Mhm.
calling truck drivers myself. I get my hands dirty as well to show them that I invest in people and I believe they take care of the process on their own. To where some people, they take care of processes, then they kind of don't really take care of the person. So then the person has a lack of performance, so to speak. So I'm sure that's something we talked about privately that you can elaborate on as well.
Jeff, I don't know if you intended to. Maybe you're the best plant ever for a pitch, but one of the things that I work with my clients on is their cash to cash cycle.
Mm,
And what a lot of people do is they take their payment in arrears. And if
mhm,
you ever want to sell a business, that is the worst way to do things. Like, the long cash to cash cycle means your company has less value. And when you're trying to sell a business, like everyone talks about 1 into 10x, 1x of that is your cash to cash cycle at a minimum.
mhm,
So the fact that you're treating your vendors essentially the right way actually makes their business more valuable, even if they're not aware of it. And as a small business owner, if you don't know about the cash to cash cycle, like my stepdad was a construction type, like he built some of the nicest houses in southern Fairfield County in Connecticut. And he was always having to float 30, 45 days of labor
mhm. Yep,
until that check came in from the developer.
yep.
And I mean, it's that kind of stress that had him have a heart attack and die on the job site, like
Mm,
literally
mm,
65 years old. And that was it. So I'm very passionate about helping people fix the cash to cash cycle to the point where I work with a lot of my folks where their vendors, sounds ironic, they get paid in arrears. So, hey, provide the product. Once it's landed, I'm going to, I'll get you paid out in, 21, 30 days, and actually invert it so that they're actually in a negative cash to cash cycle where they're actually getting the goods before they pay for it and flipping the script on it.
Yep.
So the fact that you're taking care of your people makes you stand out in an industry that does pay in arrears and sometimes significantly later.
Yes.
And you know that's huge that you do that for your people. So what's next for you? Like, where are you looking to expand to? What kind of clients are you trying to reach out to? Like, where's plan going from here, Jeff?
Yep. So right now we just brought on two more agents. So we are expanding. And where we're looking at now, Mike, is to help shippers find the right carriers. We
Mhm.
kind of spoke at a high level about all the transportation crises, but we want to customize and tailor those solutions to shippers specifically because it's not a one size shoe fits all type thing.
Mhm.
Every shipper has a unique situation, as like you mentioned, with their cash flow, who their customers are. So what I'm my ask for, Mike, right now is we're just looking for new business. We're already established in our industry, in our niche, and we're just looking for shippers, whether you're in the medical industry, um, food, whether you're a construction company. Everybody needs something moved, and everything comes in on a truck at one point in its
Mhm.
product life cycle, excuse me. So that's where we are, Mike. We're willing to expand and work with any shippers because we feel at Plan Logistics Solutions that we can provide a solution to any shipping situation.
Gotcha. And I know your website, shameless plug, planlogisticssolutions.com. Are there any other ways that people should reach out to you if they have a need for getting stuff moved point A to point B, are looking to find efficiencies in their transportation network?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. PlanLogisticSolutions.com. That's our company website. To speak with me directly, if you go to www.planfreightexcellence, that'll take you directly to my personalized webpage to where you can book a 15-minute appointment to where we can see where you are, how we can assist you, what works best, customize a supply chain solution for your company individually. Our Instagram page is at Plan Logistics Solutions. Same with Facebook at Plan Logistics Solutions as well. And our YouTube page to where how we're speaking now. I do motivational videos, inspirational videos. That's not just geared towards transportation, but also to help uplift people and inspire people to really step out and go for it and chase your dreams.
That is fantastic, my friend. We are exactly at time, which never happens. So, fantastic job out of you for that one. I really appreciate the conversation. Again, you can reach out to Jeff's company, planlogisticssolutions.com, and I'll make sure to put all of that information in the show notes so that you can reach out to him directly. Thanks so much. Have a great day.